Okay, good day. It's another wonderful day for us because we are so fortunate enough to have our special guest in today's episodes of Seasons of Life. We have with us a awarded filmmaker, storyteller, novelist, and artist. Uh, we have Januar Yap. Hello, sir. Good
Yes.
morning.
Thank you, Atty. Mac, for inviting me here. It's an honor. Yeah.
And recently, we know that you are an awardee of for best short film category under Cinemalaya, and for that, congratulations.
Thank you, Atty. Mac.
Okay. Okay. Before anything else, John, what is this Cinemalaya all about?
Okay. It's now in its 19th year. The full name is the Philippine Independent Film Festival. As they say, this was created during the time when there was kind of a dearth in terms of quality in Philippine cinema. That's why they created the Cinemalaya. We all know that it's a very commerce-driven industry, film, which is why we always churn out very commercial stories, formulaic stories, and depriving the rest of the Filipino public viewing public of really quality stories. So that's why they created as a kind of alternative of the mainstream cinema, so the Philippine independent film cinema. And to make that possible, it was they had funding to support independent filmmakers. So it's now its 19th year, and many of the alumni of this festival have went on to shoot and to create their own mainstream films as well. Many of the graduates of the short films also is like last year there was Zig Dulay. Now directed he won the short film last year. He now directed the Maria Clara and Ibarra series.
So is that Maria and Ibarra considered also as short film?
No, I mean that was a byproduct of his winning the
short film,
the Cinemalaya. Yeah, so kind of producers found him, discovered him, and then they funded his dream projects.
Dream project. Yeah. So how does it is being differentiated from the mainstream in terms of quality of stories and in terms of also conveying the core message of this short film to the public?
In terms of stories, the Cinemalaya is more of kind of playing along the line of narratives that help in national imaginary or nation building. Unlike siguro the time tested formula of commercial films, mainstream films, which dwell on maybe popular themes like love stories and horror, very genre films. But with Cinemalaya, these are stories that I think I'd like to believe they're kind of the true literature. No? I mean, in its truest sense. No?
But how is it also relevant to the social strata of the society?
Yeah, like for example, in this festival, you have a movie like Duyan na Magiting. The whole film discusses about our ideologies, the conflicting ideologies in our politics. And another is Maria, which tackled the drug war. So these are socially relevant films, thematically. I'm not saying the mainstream love stories are not, also relevant, but there is a kind of a more, a kind of a consciousness in the Cinemalaya films, narratives.
So, but in general, all these films, short story under Cinemalaya, how these films be able to like reach the greater segment of our society, especially not only in the poor communities, but also in the people in the government, in the public sector, even in the business communities, that they can actually also get the message and be able to have a consciousness for renewal, for transformation by way of this film.
Yeah. There were times a few number of years ago that Cinemalaya had regional screenings to to spread these movies. In this year, they had runs in Ayala malls, a limited number of Ayala malls. I think they're having negotiations to have regional screening in all Ayala malls. I think that's one way to distribute the films and convey the messages. And ultimately, also, these films are owned by the filmmakers, not by Cinemalaya. So the ownership is to the filmmakers. So it's now the filmmakers tasked to where they bring their films, so they can have campus tours and maybe LGU sponsored screenings. So that's a possibility actually, because unlike other festivals where the ownership of the film becomes is turned over to producers or to the festival organizers. This time in Cinemalaya, the filmmakers themselves own despite the government funding being given to them to produce the
So
films.
you retain the ownership,
Yeah.
the proprietary right over it.
Yeah. And you can market it also internationally on your own.
Now, your recent award-winning piece or short film, Sibuyas na Perfecto. Tell us about it.
Well, it's a small film, a 12-minute film, although with kind of compressed, kind of a compressed file of a lot of things that we want to say about, some social inequity, as it were, this unfair trading practice, involving
taking advantage of the
yeah.
vulnerability of the poor.
Of a farmer,
Farmers.
as represented by Perfecto. He was. I cannot mention the entire story for spoiler. It might become spoiler, but yeah, just this one day on Perfecto's life, and he's kind of delivering his harvest to a friend who's celebrating his birthday. The friend is supposedly a trader or a middleman, and he got and that's probably all I can say as of the moment. So you can watch the film yourself.
Yeah. Before making this film, were there like social realities that you yourself were able to witness that, of course, prompted you to make this film?
Yeah, very much. No, I mean, these are all from observations in our in our community. We used to go to Mantalungon and do some camp and see the situations of farmers. And the film was also conceptualized at a time when the price of onions really soared high.
Yeah.
So we wanted to make it relevant. No?
Relevant because at the time, I think they were also hoarding of onions or Sibuyas in vernacular.
Yeah. And we all know all this profit doesn't go directly to the farmers. So it's the the middlemen who are benefiting from exorbitantly.
So in making this film, tell us about the process and along with the challenges come with it. Of Sibuyas ni Perfecto. Can you recall some?
Yeah, since we were a DIY renegade team, we didn't have much money to produce. I was able to know some people in a community drug rehab program, and when I was thinking of actors, I had them in mind already. So I kind of asked them if they want to act, and they said yes. These are first-time actors, and which was very difficult and not difficult at the same time, because the lived experiences of the characters is kind of the same with the community and the kind of life these actors lead. No? So
difficult in the sense that
first-time actors.
They're first-time acting or actors, but quite relatively easy also for them because it is relevant to their daily lives.
Yeah. In fact, the instruction is do not act at all. I mean, just as you are, behave as you are, and it was a process that they have to consider, because I mean, what they have in mind was they have to act because they are actors, no? But what I told them was don't act, act as you are, and it kind of worked in this film, and that was I think the the biggest challenge, no? Because they're first-time actors. Yeah.
It's like natural for them just
Yeah.
to act. It's like
Yeah.
because every day they have experienced this kind of, you know,
Exactly. Yeah.
suffering also or difficulties in life. You know. Now, what does this mean to you, winning this short film category, Sibuyas de Perfecto? And that's personal, but also what does it mean to the community to whom you want to convey the message?
Yeah. I think I became a storyteller because I have stories to tell, and it goes without saying that you needed people to listen to your story, and this break that Cinemalaya has given us put the story, I mean, in the limelight, and I'm happy with that. No? I mean, we did not shoot a horror film or a car chase film. We presented a story about an ordinary man, and a lot of humanity in our story. And I think to be given that kind of platform, the Cinemalaya is reward enough for us that it reached a wide audience. I mean, most especially Manila people who kind of think of Perfecto's world as a parallel alternate universe. No? I mean, they were kind of surprised. Oh, that's really the reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But does this mean also leveling up towards a new opportunity for you? Like, as you said earlier, that it might not be only a short film, but later on it be evolved into a quite, longer, or how do you call that, the whole, longer story
Yeah,
of filmmaking.
it now becomes our marketing tool to pitch to producers for a full-length project, and Cinemalaya really magnified that marketing tool for us, because I mean I think before any filmmaker gets funded for a full-length, you have to kind of have a track record.
Yeah,
So I think these short films, these series of short films that we've been doing, will be enough portfolio for us to pitch our ideas to bigger producers later on.
bigger producers. But what do you need other than the funding? Meaning, are there equipment, technology, or just like the mainstream film that in terms of cinematography, in terms of aesthetic, in terms of sounds, or the technology itself?
The technology are available to us. No? If you have the funding, I mean, you can afford the technology. No? But I think one of the challenges here, especially when you're shooting in Cebu, we don't have career actors. No? We don't have a pool of actors whose profession really is acting. We get to tap people who can act, but they have specific jobs. They are working day jobs. So that's the difficult part. No? Take an actor, the actor has to file a leave of absence in their work just to be able to participate in your film. Because we don't have career actors here. That's the challenge. I think Cebu should, support.
What do you suggest?
Yeah.
Should there be a school of like?
We had many workshops, we have many actors, but they have day jobs. That's the difficult thing. They have to file a leave to be able to shoot, diba? So, and it's tricky part when you're scheduling your shoot, diba? And all of them from different workplaces. Yeah, coordinate the
Because
schedule.
it's not really their career, no. It's just
Correct.
a secondary or as
Yeah.
the sideline.
Yeah.
So by that, is there a necessity like school or institute for people who want to follow the path of being an actor, being an actress?
There's plenty of acting workshops around, and theater groups. Plenty of training. We don't have a shortage of talent actually. Just maybe a lucrative career option, acting as a lucrative career option, siguro. But maybe it's growing, kind of growing. If the production becomes more frequent, so they have permanent jobs, permanent source of income, and they survive that way, then that's a good. I think that's a good barometer that we have indeed an industry to begin with, diba?
Yeah. How about pitching in the mainstream, like Netflix? Because when I also watch on Netflix. There are films there coming from different countries, including the Philippines. And is it an opportunity for you? Is it a platform for you also to pitch?
We're looking forward to and all other Netflix and all other platforms. Yeah,
But on the long term, can you handle like seasons, season 1 or season 2, something like that?
yeah,
Are you
think,
contemplating to go that far?
of course, I mean, any filmmaker would be good. Yeah, that would be a dream for any filmmaker to have a Netflix contract. Yeah.
Now, you have recently also published 2 books.
Yeah.
I think Matag Adlaw is also an award-winning from National Commission on Culture and Arts, and recently Archipelago. So it seems a very wonderful year for you, 2023. With this another additional on your portfolio, the Sibuyas ni Perfecto, no? Would you tell us what is Matag Adlaw all about?
It's the collection is composed of stories. Some of them written during the pandemic, which means the setting are during the pandemic. The community's experience during the pandemic, and there are some. But this is in a nutshell. These are stories of the common man, the
On a daily basis.
yeah
And under the atmosphere of pandemic season.
yeah partly and other times also other settings also. But these are stories mostly of the everyday man in our community when faced situations where that magnify social realities lang siguro. Yeah.
So the characters here are from different walks of life.
Yeah.
Like what?
There's a security guard. There's a Masiao runner. There's a what else? A journalist. There's a mga wanderers and lost souls and people like that. No? But experiencing realities in their community.
And during the pandemic.
Yeah, partly. Yeah, some of the stories.
Now in your narratives coming from these people, were their behaviors different under that season of pandemic than the behaviors of people in ordinary times without pandemic? So
I think they behaved accordingly, depending on the stimulus that the pandemic has given them, and they're acting normally actually, but they face the challenge because it's a different situation altogether. For example, there's this mother who had to go to the hospital for an MRI procedure, but they have to go through different checkpoints.
yes.
So kana lang siya, and so just
So
ordinary,
it's a different situation.
Yeah.
If compared to the non-pandemic season.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, it's more difficult for them. It's more challenging.
Yeah.
And that Matag Adlaw was able to portray
Yeah.
all these experiences
Yeah.
from different people from different walks of
I
life.
hope so. No? Yeah.
So, how about the other book, Archipelago? What is this all about?
In a nutshell, it's kind of capturing the nation as an archipelago, because we've always imagined the nation to be just like one entity, but it's not. We're not one entity as a nation because we're a group of 7,000 islands with different realities altogether. So that's what I wanted to capture. Kind of reimagining the nation, that we are a group of islands, and the sea is not something that divides us, but the sea kind of bridge our stories, are not different narratives.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So, it is inspired by what? What prompted you? What inspired you to come up with this kind of book in a different light of the Philippines as an archipelago?
I don't know. Maybe it's just that dream of writing a nation project, the quote-unquote nation project. What really is the nation? And it became more intense because politically, in the last few years in our country, we seem not to understand the Filipinos anymore, voting for other candidates and not the candidates we dreamed of. And kind of really divided in a way. And you ask yourself as a creative, have I been imagining the country the same way these people are imagining the country? So maybe very differently. So maybe I should reflect on how I imagine the country.
So in this book, how do you imagine the country in this light?
Yeah, like I said, different realities altogether. That's why no matter how we rant on Facebook, for example, people vote otherwise because they imagine the country differently. I don't think that election was just about money, but I think it's about our failure to connect to the rest of the people in the islands. So yeah, so that's my thesis in this novel.
Okay, but in a nutshell, how does the election reality being portrayed in this archipelago?
You get different stories, how these islands kind of have a disconnect with the ideological center called Manila. So there's kind of disconnect from these islands. So that's why it's a seafaring novel. It goes to different islands.
That's why it's archipelago.
Archipelago. Yeah.
Do you mean to say that the mindset, the way the people in Luzon or Manila imagine the Philippines is different from how the Visayan people also imagine within our island, Cebu, like Cebu.
A perfect visual aid would be a chromatic diagram of the election results. You look at it, different colors, and you see how the islands voted. Very much different from how the ideological center chose their candidates. And that's a perfect representation of how disconnected we are as a country.
So we perceive realities in a different
Correct.
light.
We perceive the country in different lights. Yeah.
So, what's the message then of Archipelago? I mean, is there a transformational message to the country, Philippines?
Yeah. Maybe it's kind of question. Think again if we really are a country. I think that's the question of Archipelago.
So,
Isn't it just a social construct created by a number of people, or did we really agree that this is a country? And that's I think the question of the novel.
So, is being an archipelagic country very relevant to our being, divided in terms of how we perceive realities or social realities?
The archipelagic nature of our country is oftentimes used by people in power to divide us further by languages, by geography, and by ideology, culturally, and they take advantage of that to divide us further. To get power, divide and conquer.
Divide and conquer.
Yeah. So that archipelago has been, that setup of an archipelago has been taken advantage by
Being
people.
taken advantage of the people.
Yeah.
Also, not only the archipelagic nature of our country, but also the different languages.
Correct.
And maybe the
Culture.
different subcultures
Yeah.
in different. So this is what archipelago is all about.
Yeah.
But is there like a suggestive portrayal here of what or how should we imagine Philippines as such?
Yeah.
You mentioned a while ago that waters are not really divisive in nature, but they are actually connecting the islands in the Philippines. So, how does this portrayal would positively bring that kind of affirmative message to the people?
Yeah, I cannot propose a solution for our problem of division, but I think we can at least acknowledge that we are divided first and foremost before we can even dream of the thing called unity.
But this archipelago, is this ideal piece for filmmaking?
Yeah, the book was conceived really as a film. If only I had enough money, I would just make it into film instead of novel. But Yeah, all my stories I think were preconceived as films. So because they're very
African
visual.
as film. So
Yeah,
this one is not only a book, or is it a novel, or
it's a novel but with different stories.
with different
Yeah,
stories?
that can stand on their own, but they are thematically woven together to become one arc, one big arc.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the dream of that book is to translate that into a film.
Yeah, certain chapters in fact in this book are already in a screenplay form.
It's screenplay for.
And
Wow, that's nice. Um, you also being an artist, being a creative person. You wear a lot of hats. For example, being a journalist, being a novelist, being a professor, and a filmmaker. On top of everything that you do, so how are you managing your things? How are you navigating through this archipelagic roles of yours?
Uh, well, I just go out for ice cream. I think that I don't know. Some of these works feed into each other. And it makes it easier to do. So they're not. It's not as though they are far different in nature in terms of creative process. They're kind of basically the same. So you can hit them in one stroke, for example. But don't get the impression that I work much of the hours in a day. Usually I just sleep, just eat, and that's all.
So that is how you
Yeah.
live your life, being
Yeah.
a multi-talented person.
But it's important to form a kind of discipline as well. No? Um, I set aside certain hours to do these things every day.
But can you like really fix the suppose this morning I have to do this one, this
Yeah.
afternoon? Is this really a time measured of doing of being creative, of doing your creative works?
Yeah, the creative work is kind of medyo quite flexible siya, no? But in my case, I develop a kind of discipline to do it certain hours of the day. I'm a morning person. I wake up early, no? So I take a shower, I dress up, I go to the coffee shop and start work there, start writing. No? And in this thing, I tell creative writing workshop fellows, there are two kinds of writer's block. If it's a problem of execution or a problem of imagination. No? If it's a problem of execution, I mean, you already have these things imagined.
In mind.
Your job is to execute it, to write it down. There should be no excuse. You have to execute it no matter what. Okay.
But when
Okay.
it's problem of imagination,
If it's a problem imagination, leave it behind. Walk around. Forget
then,
about
so that
it.
you can stir another
Yeah.
imaginative things for you.
Yeah, and it worked
Uh-huh.
for me actually. So that's what I do.
So when there's already an idea, thought,
Write it down because you're fighting indolence. So yeah.
you're fighting indolence. Yeah, I think that's the hard part, the
Yeah.
execution.
Yeah.
Because by nature, we're all imaginative. If you are a really creative person, you have a lot of ideas in your mind, but to translate it into something, into a written piece into a written piece, it's another story.
It's partly fear, it's partly indolence, and you have to confront these two things, these two enemies. No? And I noticed in hindsight, when I read the story, the parts that I really like, I remember were those times when I felt so lazy and scared writing it, but I pursued. I mean, I persisted, and now that I'm reading it all over again, yeah, and I'm happy about that. I'm happy about it that I persisted during that moment of laziness and
But there are also,
uncertainty. No?
John, there's also times that you already have this kind of ideas, thoughts, but when you write it, it's different.
Yeah.
Is that natural or normal?
Yes, that's very frustrating. In fact, you have these ideas and you execute it. Turns out very differently. But you have to disengage your idea that the creative process only takes place at that time, at that moment. I mean, there's plenty of time for revision later on.
Okay.
And that's still part of the creative process. And in fact, the biggest part of the creative process.
But sometimes it is done in a better way. Meaning what you have in mind
Okay.
is just a hope, but when you execute it, is that true? That
Yeah,
it's better than what you have thought.
Correct. No? There are really moments when the muse possess you, kind of possess you, and you're possessed by a magical power beyond what you expected, and you wrote something. What I do that is I drink Coke for instance. Wow, good work. I mean, you congratulate yourself.
Yeah, congratulate
Yeah,
yourself.
because you've written down something.
But how would you able to balance, no? You know, for us, for writers, for artists, for novelists, or for filmmaker like you, it's quite hard to strike a balance between like earn a living and of course doing these creative works because creative people are not really that compensated here, not really that big valued, unlike in other countries. But how would you strike the balance to earn a living between to earn a living and to do your passion of creativity?
I'm very fortunate to be in an institution that supports creative work, that provides compensation or incentives for creative work. I teach in UP, and UP has been very supportive. There are grant mechanisms if you want to do something creative, and if you win in creative contests, they also give you incentives. So I don't even strike the balance. I'm fortunate to be in that institution.
Okay,
in
so
UP.
you're like a basketball player, NBA player that enjoys playing the game at the
Yeah.
same time earning.
Thanks
So,
to UP, yeah.
that's the environment that you are in. So
Yeah.
you are so fortunate enough. Unlike other artists or creative people who just survive and struggling, for that.
But I think the video format has been lucrative now. I think that's the platform to go to for companies, for institutions. I think it's a very lucrative season for videographers, filmmakers this time.
Yeah,
Plenty of
because
work.
people love to watch than to read.
Correct, exactly. ang video content, especially in social media, is everywhere.
But all these things that you have been doing, you have been awarded already a lot with Palanca Awards, NCA Awards, and this one is Cinemalaya Award, for short film category. But how did Januar Yap start being an artist, being a creative person?
I don't know if there was
Was it a
a
childhood
turning point thing, but I think it's gradual.
And when did it start? When did it start?
Uh,
Can you recall the spark that okay, it's my career, it's my path to follow? Because I heard you are a registered nurse.
yeah, I mean, by force actually.
By force.
But I was like winning poster making contests in high school, elementary. I was more visual, and then the literary came during college, and I think a combination of those things brought me to filmmaking. So parang it's kind of logical steps
For your career
along
path.
the way.
Along the way. And being a nurse is just
An accident.
an accident. Was it by your parents' suggestion?
Yeah, because all the other relatives were abroad.
But being a nurse, how does it also help you in diagnosing the realities, social realities in that sense?
Very much, no. The stories that I write in terms of characterization, plenty of things I learned in psychiatric nursing, psychology. So there's plenty of psychology and psychiatry in my stories actually. It helped understand characters. So katabang
Katabang siya.
yeah, ang nursing.
Because-
And my favorite subject was also psychiatric nursing. That's my favorite subject, and going to the mental hospital to interact with the mental patients. That was, I think, I got a flat one that subject, and I was often teased by my teacher. I mean, they could not recognize which is the crazy one, you or the nurse, or the patient. So it takes one to know one. I think there's that kind of the thin line.
Psychology. Is it really like related also to creativity? Because
Very much, yeah.
in what sense? In what way?
when you do characters, for example, when you write characters, you need to understand, people, how their mind works, their traumas, and how their traumas manifest in the way they interact with people. That's psychology. That you learn that from psychology.
So in a way, your being a nurse is not by accident at all.
Yeah, connecting the dots.
Connecting the dots because it also relates to the social
Yeah.
realities. Health is also one of the components of social life.
Yeah. Mental health, for example.
Mental health, and it's even related also to economics because how could you avail medical services if you are not that well-to-do family or you belong to the poor families? Because health is also a challenge, especially during the pandemic. The poor people were also vulnerable. Most of them died because they don't have so much access to medical intervention. So
and college life activism also helped in their creative process.
College activism.
Yeah.
So what was your affiliation before?
But CGP, LFS, NUSP.
NUSP, all these things. Okay, so and there are also discussions on social realities and.
Although you outgrow it sometimes in the process.
Yeah, you outgrow it. But how the creative part played a role in the process of your passion, your career as a creative person, vis-a-vis or in the context of social realities when you were affiliated with those organizations.
Yeah, basically the kind of ideology that these stories espouses. It all comes from that time, from those readings, from those, So, I mean, in terms of positioning myself where I stand in the politics of things, so, and that can be traced back to that activism years. So,
but all these things during activism years and all this the work that you have doing now with social. With touch of social realities. How do you see yourself in the way these messages, this portrayal of yours in your works to the people? Because after all, the people will be your audience. So how this all engagement of yours in the past in being affiliated with these organizations, with the USP, with LFAs, with CHP, transform you into a person that brought a message to the people with your works?
Well, yeah, I think that sensitivity to social realities lang siguro. I mean, that's the very one thing we learn from those things. Kind of social conscience, for example. So,
but in a nutshell, do you able to send a message?
I hope so.
And what do you see as challenges along the way?
In terms
because
of
social media, TikTok is more popular, Reels are more popular. The different scenes on the posted social media are not quite in touch with social realities. How do you respond to that?
Perfecto is one step.
Okay.
Because it breaks down complex, social realities into a simpler narrative. He's just one farmer who's trying to sell his goods and being shortchanged in the end. It's a very simple story, but it comes from a bigger context, no? And by simplifying the situation, humanizing it, I think that becomes more understandable as far as the masses is concerned. And I hope it kind of politicize the masses, because they will see themselves there in the film and how forgiving, how tolerant they are even if they are cheated. And I think then that will go straight into the masses. They can see themselves in this film. So I think that's
So you still find hope, like that you can still convey this message, because it's being sometimes supervened by, you know, a lot more of information, glorifying this modern way of living, you know. Um, what does it take for January and all other, you know, artists, also creatives, having the same mindset to really get through this social consciousness, the message of social consciousness to the people?
Yeah.
Is it a Herculean task for you, or is
It's
it really a big challenge for you?
what we can do is trust the process. And, I mean, the community is a work in progress all the time. So we just look for avenues where we can reach the audience. Kana lang siguro. All you can do is create content and hope it will reach the audience and perhaps, you know, show them their own realities in quite different light. So I don't know. I mean, you cannot really act like God.
Just one step at a
yeah,
time.
just do what you can, no, in your own end.
Now, there is this influx of artificial intelligence, and sometimes compromising the natural creative flow of the minds of people, of the people who want to be, who aspire to be an artist, storyteller, filmmaker like you. Um, how would you see that happening in our midst now?
Well, we can only see that as competition, the AI, and I mean, humanity is born as a competitive species, and we never gave up. And we've proven that in history. So, yeah, we can always pick up the challenge, and I'd like to believe there will always be things that the AI cannot do. It may be more intelligent than us, but we're made of soul and spirit as well, and which the AI doesn't have. And I think that's where we can bring the fight.
So we just go on with what we are doing, because I remember before, there was this era that the books have to be digitalized, like the e-books, and in a long span of time, it didn't thrive. Meaning, people now are going back to the
Books,
books.
the physical books.
Yeah, so I think that's also the trajectory of this AI in the future. Meaning, human as we are, we will realize that we can hardly appreciate this kind of thing in the context of our being creative by heart, or from within us. No?
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
It will be there, hopefully, just an option, just as an option. And we're still here. Everybody will be around, and we can work together with AI.
Now, with your reach now, no, being a awarded person, and of course, there are also young people who are also aspiring to be like you. And what is your message to them?
But I think persistence is key. There are hundreds of young ones who want to be a filmmaker, but there are only a few who survive. I think persistence is the key. There will be a lot of heartaches, heartbreaks along the way. In fact, more than the happy ones. But you just have to persist. I've had a lot of rejections, pitching, Cinema One, and yeah.
But how do you react?
Well, of course, I mean, you feel so down. It felt like for a number of months you can do anything at all. But then you recover and then you fight on. No? So it's persistence actually.
Now, what would be Januar Yap in the next 10 years? Are we looking forward to being a national artist, or how do you see yourself 10 years from now, for example?
But I think that the question, how do you want to see yourself? No, I don't want to. I don't want. In fact, during the Cinemalaya, there's one thing that I didn't like. The glamour and the red carpet. Well, I'd rather stay home. I think 10 years from now, maybe eat some good food. Ice cream, and yeah, if these accolades are, I don't really mind these accolades, but I wanted the stories to reach more of the audience. That's what matters to me.
Yeah, that's
that
what
they're
matters to
that they're
you.
reading, that they're being moved by them. That's what's important for me. Yeah.
But the way how you move them, the way how you convey also the message to them, that will also reflect what could be, uh, what you can be, and that would be your accolades also. I think it's just the result of
Yeah.
the impact that you have brought to the people with your message. So, okay, Januar, what particular projects that you are working on this time that your audience would be looking out for?
A lot of things. So I'm developing a script. Three scripts. One is for production. I'm just a co-writer in this project, Cangrejos. It's a Zamboanga film, full-length film.
Full length?
Full length. It's full length. But co-writer lang ko. The other one we're going to pitch to an international funding, and another one which I will submit hopefully the next round of Cinemalaya full length. And then I'm writing also a collection of flash fiction, which is written under UP grant, which I hope to finish. In fact, one of these short fiction became the film, which is Perfecto. So the rest of these stories are very much like the Perfecto stories. So kana lang siya, and of course I'm finishing my dissertation for my PhD. So
PhD?
yeah, in media and communication.
Here in UP also?
No, in Melbourne, RMIT,
Melbourne. So,
Australia. Yeah.
so is it online or you have to go there?
Half, partly offshore, partly physical.
Physical.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good. Congratulations again for those projects and for another achievement in your career, and a lot more to looking out for, to look forward with you, Januar. So
Thank you, Attorney Mac.
you also have like I think recently through Advox we're also able to receive a grant with your archipelago for translation from National Book Development Board. Again, congratulations for that.
Thank you.
How would you work that kind of translation? Because archipelago, I understand, is in Visayan language or dialect. So how it is being done, the process of translation?
It's Jan Bengan, no? A writer also in English who's translating it now. So we're kind of nagbato-bato in terms of consultation. I hope ma-finish niya during the deadline, for the NBDB deadline, and hopefully submit this to publishers, to international publishers, or Advox can publish it.
Maybe
The English. Yeah.
So, what target or audience target that you are looking forward to with the translated archipelago into English?
We're hoping for an international audience for this novel. Yeah. That's why we're looking for avenues, international publishers.
Now, with your recently awarded Sibuyas ni Perfecto, would you please tell where can our audience watch this film?
We hope Cinemalaya can finally negotiate a regional screening with the Ayala malls. They have already done it during the festival week, showing in Glorieta, in Ayala, Manila Bay. So I hope the negotiations still going and for regional screenings. There will be announcements, I'm sure, later on.
Okay. With that, thank you so much, Januar Yap. Thank you, and maybe we can discuss more in the next episodes with you and your upcoming projects. Thank you so much. It's another episode of Seasons of Life with multi-awarded Januar Yap.
Thank you, Attorney Mac.